I believe anyone who's healthy would never want to be in a relationship without commitment. You might not even know, because I mean, there was a time when I was a player, I used to crush a lot. Do you know what I'm referencing? Hey, what's up guys? It's Martay and your girl is back. I'm with the incredible Amber Wilson. And if you know anything about anything that's going on in the world, you know that we just came out with a song called Gaslight Me.
Gaslight me, don't rip the band-aid off, cause it's not fair for me to go through hell.
We're so excited. We're so excited. Yes. We were actually in like a really cool food court. That does not sound cool, but a food court in Kansas City. And they played it over the PA system. It's like a really like bougie food court where everybody goes for fun on like a Friday night. They have dancing and all the things and food, of course. And they played it over the stereo system, the PA system. Yeah. And that was such an amazing feeling. So
yeah, there were probably like 200 people there, which is like
for
crazy.
Sure, if not more.
Like that many people like unexpectedly heard the song. So I'm just kind of like shook.
The day it was released, so super excited. I feel like God is just gonna blow this thing up, and I can't wait. We're here today because I want to talk about gaslighting, and so does Amber. I think it's one of those topics, like last night around the table, we were talking about gaslighting, and I think a lot of us, I mean not us, because we just wrote a song about it, did not really understand what gaslighting is, and so I think we want to talk about gaslighting, definitely bring awareness to it, expand it, talk about moments where we might have been gaslit. I think a lot of people are more gaslit than they know. So I really want to talk about like what you can do if you are being gaslit. Amber, do you want to give your definition of gaslighting? Like what does gaslighting mean to you?
Oof, I feel like to me gaslighting, depending on the severity or how mild it is, it's just, to me, I've always viewed it as just like a form of manipulation, which sounds really extreme, but I think about certain friendships in the past, just relationships in general, where I look back on it now and I was like, oof, that one interaction, or oof, that one comment, that conversation, that was unhealthy. Yeah. That was toxic. I think a good example, for example, you're in a relationship.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Oh, hi, Siri.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Siri, you're not a part of this. She's gaslighting us.
I think a good example, it's kind of extreme, but for example, say you're in a romantic relationship with someone, or any relationship, honestly, and for example, one person in the relationship, they cheat, and they pull the card of, oh, well, if you had have given me more attention, or oh, if you had have like loved me better, respected my needs, then I wouldn't have left. I wouldn't have cheated on you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's always the example I go to, because it just feels like so like easy to understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like gaslight, I'm with you. I think everything you said is like dead on. I mean, we looked it up yesterday on like dictionary.com, and it's like gaslighting is an extreme form of psychological manipulation that a lot of people don't even know they're doing to you sometimes. And it makes you feel like you're tripping. It like makes you question what is going on in your mind. Like, am I really a bad person? Like you start asking questions that you would never ask yourself. And you start to convince yourself that the person, like it flips the situation that happened in your mind. I think your example is perfect. I know there's a few things that people say that to gaslight, and they might not even know they're gaslighting. And we looked these up last night. Like one of them is like, oh, you're just being sensitive.
example two, like, why would I give you a reason to not trust me? I think
that's a good one. Yeah.
Something that I'm recently having to work through of like when someone hits you with the what have I done to like lose your trust, or what have I not done correctly, or like I don't know, just like stuff that makes you question your sanity and kind of question your reasons why you're doing what you're doing, why you're choosing to step away from a relationship or a friendship or a situationship even. I feel like is another popular thing that we could talk about maybe in a different podcast. Because I hadn't even heard the word situationship, and then like
people are out there.
There's always new words to describe
dysfunction.
Dysfunction, exactly.
Yeah, I think there's like these trendy words, I'm gonna be 100% real, to describe dysfunction, and like they're kind of like pop trendy, like pop culture trendy. Like a situationship to me is complete dysfunction. Like who wants to be? I mean, maybe there's some people out there. I feel like healthy people y'all gonna hate me for this, but you could just leave a comment. That's all you need to do. Leave a comment.
Start a war in the comments to boost the algorithm.
I believe anyone who's healthy would never want to be in a relationship without commitment. You might not even know, because I mean, there was a time when I was a player. I used to crush a lot. Do you know what I'm referencing?
What?
It's okay.
No, what are you referencing?
Guys, I'm getting old. There was a time when I was super unhealthy, and I think I would totally gaslight people. I just didn't even know gaslighting was a concept. But I was struggling from my pain from my own family dynamic. Like, my dad had left the family and left us all, in a bad place, and I hated the male species, and I wasn't so much that I hated people, like, I'd be kind, but like, in terms of dating dynamics, I was like, I'm gonna use my power, because I didn't have any when it came to, or I felt like I didn't, my own family situation. So I found myself in college, like, literally dating 3 guys at one time, and like playing them all, making them feel like they were the only one. And then when they would find out about another one, I'd be like, oh, come on, like, they don't mean anything. Like, I've always been here for you, or like all these gaslit phrases. Yeah. So I feel like I've been on both ends of gaslighting, and I definitely have repented from that. Definitely not there anymore. That was like 11 years ago or whatever. But yeah, tell us of an example or like a situation that you might have been gaslit. As much as you want. You don't have to share too much. I feel like nowadays we kind of overshare, but I'm here for it. But I don't want to ever force anyone to overshare.
I think about like in the workplace.
Dude, that's my example too.
I was talking about this with my best friend Shekinah. I used to work at Target, and I used to work in the clothing department when I first started there. And we had just gotten a new boss at the time. And looking in the moment, I didn't realize that's what it was. But looking back on it now, I was like, did my boss like gaslight me?
Yeah.
Like, for example, like, oh, why can't you come in? Why can't you come in today? I thought you said you had open availability. Like, yes, I have open availability, but I have a life. Like,
yeah.
Or, oh, like, why can't you work faster? Like, this person's working faster. This person can go above and beyond their needs. I'm like, yeah, but I have boundaries. Like, I'm not gonna just say yes just because I have a name tag with Target on it.
I'm not your slave.
Like, if I don't have the capacity to do it, like, I'm not gonna do it. And I think that's a personal thing of like, I know for me, I can do things half-heartedly when I'm not at full capacity, or if not at full capacity, with enough space within my capacity to do it well.
Yeah,
and
you need rest too.
Yeah,
like mental clarity,
right.
Rest. Yeah.
I just look back on that, I was like, whoa, like my boss gaslit me. Like, that's like,
it really happens
weird.
A lot in the workforce.
Yeah.
A lot of y'all know on here, and I run a company, and so I've had employees like abuse their privileges at times, like, because we're like doing a lot. And I think one thing is with just like time, I've had people like tell me, well, you aren't really present as a leader, so I decided to squander all this time and just like have you pay me anyways. I don't understand, like, all of a sudden you doing something really wrong became my fault. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, man. And what's crazy about being gaslit is like, you kind of like feel the shame and the guilt of like that person saying, well, if you would have been there, Martay, and like been more present as a leader, I would have done my work. And I'm like, well, should I have been there? Like, you start asking all of these questions. Should I have been there? Am I a bad leader? Am I getting all this wrong? Like, and I start spiraling when like gaslighting really makes people spiral. And so I think that's one of my like most like recent examples. Let's talk about
food for thought.
Tell us.
Do you think gaslighting is a fruit of unhealthy communication?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm sure it's also a fruit of other things. I think definitely that's one of like the roots of it, right?
Right.
I feel like our generation, I'm a millennial. Are you Gen Z?
I'm
on the cusp.
I'm right on the border of millennial Gen Z.
Our parents, I mean, sorry, mom and dad, we're not all of us. This is not a generalization because you can't ever be general, right? About a whole generation. That's not fair. I will say a majority of my parents and my friends' parents and all of those people lumped into some were not great communicators. I can speak to my own family's lack of communication at times. My family was military. So there wasn't really space or freedom to be like, hey, I really feel hurt. Like, that's a buzzword that was never really used in my family. Like, that really hurt me, or like, When you say that, I feel is a buzzword that we never would use growing up. And so the millennial generation comes along and we're like, mental health.
Yeah,
and we start using buzzwords like feel, hurt,
trigger.
And and your parents are like, ew, like do not.
I'm allergic to honesty.
No. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, my parents have grown so much. Mom and Dad, you guys are phenomenal. I do not know how
because I
you
know
came
my parents
so
are watching
far.
this for their little Friday movie night. Shout out to Mom and Dad on your movie night. Hi.
What's up? My mom watches this, guys. My mom thinks I'm famous, and I'm here for it. That's all that matters. God and mom. So
my parents are gonna keep me humble, make me take out the trash every time I come home. That's what Dad said.
That's what's
like
up.
Eddie Murphy.
You gotta stay clean in the house. It never ends. We don't have maids around here. Yeah, so I do think, I'm with you. I think it has to do with unhealthy communication. I also think it comes from trauma.
Yeah.
Like, you only know what you've seen.
Yeah.
And I was just at the therapist the other day, and she was like, I was telling her like all my family history. My family's amazing, but like we have trauma, like most families, right? And she's like, Martay, you talk about this like it's so, the grass is green and the sky is blue, like so like cool and normal. She's like, but it's really not. And I was like, well, if you never, like if you have a dysfunctional car, I think a lot of people can relate to this. Like not everyone's car is ballin'. There's people driving cars, their blinker doesn't work, or like their transmission like cuts out and acts weird.
Yeah.
And like all this stuff, right? If you've never driven a healthy car or like a nice car.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know how a nice car works really. Like you can watch YouTube videos and like be like, okay, I mean, I kind of get it. But if you've never driven it, you don't really know how to operate in a healthy car.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the same when it comes to like gaslighting and manipulation. So tell us, Amber.
Yo.
Like there's people on here watching us. Hi guys, again, that are probably in a gaslit situation. This is bringing some like revelation to them.
For sure.
What should someone do? Or what would you do if you knew you were being
me,
gaslit?
having come out of a bunch of situations the past 2 years, I think for me, and obviously it'll look different for wherever you're at, but I think for me it came down to what do I want? Like what are my needs? What are things that are unhealthy about myself that I want to grow in?
Yeah.
And also how do I recognize that? And I say this lovingly, but how do I recognize those unhealthy things in other people that I myself am trying to grow in?
Yeah.
And set really healthy boundaries. And even too, like, what is a boundary? Like just getting really definitive about things like what is a boundary? What does it mean to be healthy? Because obviously too, I think for me, I kind of at some point had this aha moment of like, we're all going to be an unfinished product regardless of what point we're at in life. Like we're human. We're not going to be 100% perfect.
Yeah,
but that's
true.
also not an excuse to settle for less than what is best for yourself, or in our case, like being Christian, like that's not an excuse or a reason for me to settle for less than God's best in my relationships. And so that, and even to like getting really clear on things like assertive communication, you know, where you say like, hey, like your thoughts, your needs, your desires matter, but also so do mine. And I think that was the most freeing thing of getting in that mindset of like, I can love people well, but in order to do that, I also have to learn how to love myself well, and I have to learn how to get really clear about what I'm wanting and why I want it.
Yeah.
And I think the most freeing thing too, that was also really mind-blowing to me, was that I was listening to a podcast, I forget which podcast it was, but they were talking about how we're all attractive. But define attractive. Like, are you an unhealthy attractive or are you a healthy attractive? Because regardless, like, what are you attracting? I think is really important. And so I think for me, it was just a thing of like, okay, like, let me take an honest inventory of where I'm at personally in life. Let me look at all of my friendships in life, relationships, romantic relationships, work relationships, job options, endeavors, just everything, and kind of get clear about what I'm wanting and why I honestly settled for that, or why I'm afraid to venture out. Because I think a lot of the things too, it's like we don't really have verbiage or articulation sometimes for why we're feeling what we're feeling, but there's something in us that knows that we deserve better. Just get to a point where you can just honestly try to admit to yourself, I deserve better. Like, I deserve the best. And that's not like from a place of arrogance, but from a place of like, no, like we're all worthy of good things.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
That's good. Yeah, I'm with you. I like what you said about like a healthy attraction versus an unhealthy attraction. I feel like you also have to be able to witness to yourself and like answer questions like, am I healthy attracted or am I unhealthy attracted? I know when I went through a dating phase, which wasn't like I was rebellious. I felt like my spiritual mentors were like, you need to date, like go out there. And that's not for everyone. I think you need to be led and discerning and whatever on that. But for me, I felt like the Lord's tug in that area. And I found out really quickly, and y'all, I was in my late 20s, that I was unhealthy attracted to people. I have a person in my life who I love dearly, but they were not a healthy person. And so I'm attracted to people like that person. And I would naturally just like invite these people into my life. And then I had to get honest with myself, and the Holy Spirit is really, really kind. And then we will show you the truth, y'all, if you're ready and you're open. And he showed me the truth, and I'm grateful because I feel like that's how I met Carlos. I like had to crucify this unhealthy picture of what a guy, a romantic man in my life, a partner, would look like. And to be honest, he looked like me, but a lot of people that looked like me had really unhealthy traits and were not ready to settle down and all these things. And so I was like, oh shoot, like I'm unhealthy attracted to people. And yeah, so long story short, I think community is huge.
Yeah.
One thing that people don't do, and we've talked about this on my channel before, and with Carlos, is a lot of people will date like on the low. And I think God's way is like dating on the high. That's not a thing, but like dating in the midst of community. I'm not saying everybody needs to have a say so, but those people that you trust in your life do. You know, introducing someone you're dating to your friends right away and giving them the authentic ability to say, hey Amber, hey Martay, I saw him cuss out the waiter, like this is not the dude for you. Like while you were in the bathroom, this dude like stole the tip or something. Probably wouldn't happen. Hopefully y'all are better than that. But yeah, that community, I think also if you're being gaslit, like you kind of mentioned, you went into a little bit, I think you have to have defined boundaries. Where do you get those? I mean, I think the fruit of the Spirit in the Bible, you can Google that if you're like brand new to all this. It talks about things that like if someone basically is of God, if God's Spirit is there, they're gonna bear these things like peace, joy, long suffering, patience, you know what I mean? And when someone's not in that, I mean, I have been impatient, so like we all can ebb and flow. Don't hear me wrong here, but if they consistently treat you opposite of those, or if that's like a fruit of your relationship, it's an opposite fruit, you can say, oh, that's not healthy. Like that's a nice measurement, right? Like, and if something is constantly hurting you, I think that's a good measurement as well. Like God gave us like the ability to feel pain, like emotionally, mentally, and physically. So like when I'm playing basketball, if my leg starts hurting, I'm not gonna be like, oh, this is good. Right. Yeah, you sit down, like you take a break.
If you like put your hand on a burner, like on a pilot on a stove, and it's like hot, like you're not gonna keep it there. You're gonna
you can. I think the same thing emotionally. Like if something hurts you emotionally, mentally, spiritually, remove yourself. I mean, you don't need to go into isolation like crazy, but like you're allowed to take time. And I think that's what my third thing was gonna be is you can take time. That's something I learned when I came to Kansas City. I didn't realize how unhealthy I was emotionally. I wasn't like super out of control, but I had some pretty unhealthy traits. And I just like realized for me, if something goes wrong and I'm starting to spiral emotionally or something triggered me, take a moment. So just step back. Like if a friend does something wrong to you, you don't have to be like with them the next day. You can say, hey, I love you, but I just need a moment.
And I think that was the most freeing thing for me too. Like I just realized like, oh wait, time, especially living in LA now, my days go by as quickly as they ever have in my whole time I've been on this earth. Like I've never experienced days that go by as quickly as they do in LA. And I also think another thing too is just realizing that your time is very precious. Your time and your energy is very precious. And I say this lovingly, but also I dare you to identify the people and the things in your life that could be bulked under the category of being a time waster and an energy drainer. I think that was another thing too of like realizing, again, graciously sometimes, while some of us do have a desire to get healthy and are acting out and walking that out, some people are still afraid of what that'll look like. And again, that's not me excusing the behavior, but kind of, I think that also helped bring a lot of light and also helped with my own healing and forgiveness journey too, of having been gaslit, or just in other different situations too, where I just was kind of like, like, yes, I don't accept or excuse that behavior, but at the same time, like, I understand why they did that.
Well, that's called compassion.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think you can have compassion for people. I think that's really hard for our generation.
It's so hard. It's so
Especially
hard.
I think in our culture now, which didn't always exist, it's really hard for people to have love and compassion and disagreement exist in the same boat of sort.
Everything feels like really polarized now.
Yeah, everything's really polarized. Like either I agree 100% with this person and hate everyone else that might not agree, or nothing. Like that's what it is. And I think, me and my little brother have like full on fought, because I'm like, we can have disagreement and I can fight for you at the same time and love you so much, but we don't have to be the same. We're like, it's not a homogeneous, like we're not ants, guys. Like you're allowed to have amber thoughts, amber qualities that I will not have.
Right.
And I might actually not agree with. And like, here's the thing that might blow your mind, and my mind too, like, what if God intentionally created us to not agree? You exist in this, like, I don't know, it's like this reality of like, not everything is one thing.
Right.
I think we can do that.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Sorry, I'm not trying to be like, oh, you're resident.
No,
but
you're good.
Yeah.
How dare you be a Christian?
Like a little hippie over here.
How dare you?
How dare you think beyond the black
How
and
dare
white?
you?
At the end of the day, I think you can have compassion for people and be like, you're wrong.
Now, obviously that looks different for like the extreme instances where it's like abusive, like actually abusive. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even think I'm I'm qualified to talk about it, because
like when someone's like for real, like abusing someone like in a major way. Like we are not therapists. We're not really qualified to talk about any of this, but I think this is just bringing light to something that needs to be brought more light to. More light needs to be brought to this topic. I would take a different approach. Like I think, which is crazy because my mom used to say this and now I'm like eating my words. I used to disagree, but now I agree. She would always say, you cannot like put a metric to someone's pain. Let's say I have like a humble, like, or smaller, what's seemingly smaller, situation of gaslighting with a friend that I just met, and somebody's been gaslit for 12 years. I think human nature is like, I want to say that the one of 12 years is like definitely more heavy and takes more precedent, but like we don't know how strong someone is or isn't. And God, I think, sees all pain the same and like cares about it all equally. And so I want to give just as much like highlight to someone who just got gaslit yesterday for the first time to someone who's been gaslit for 12 years. I think your pain is valid and we need to like come to a place to where we can hopefully change that, praying for you. If you are being gaslit, leave a comment in the comment section. We'll pray for you. I feel like that has to happen. Otherwise, that's how abuse happens. That's another gaslighting. Like, oh, it's just so small. Like, it's fine.
I just also want to encourage and give grace and space for anyone who is afraid to end a relationship or a friendship or quit a job or transfer a department or move to a different state or even cut ties with family members. I think that's another one that's like really hard, but I just want to give you grace and space and permission to acknowledge that pain is there and that it's valid, like what we're talking about, and just affirm you and saying that you're not crazy for feeling that way. It's the human form is so complex and intricate, and it blows my mind how, just with us being Christians, it just blows my mind how God is still able to just like handle all of that. But I just
we will never know.
That, and I also too was thinking like, man, it's gonna be it's just a crazy mystery how at the end of all of this life too, he's gonna bring all of us together. Like I think about the people that I just butt heads with all the time or have butt heads with in the past. Like it's just a mystery. But I say all that to just give you permission to do what you have to do. And I think if there's people out there even who are like, oh, well, like, what if I come across as rude, or if I hurt them, or if they don't understand, or what if I'm perceived this way? Like, I'm just gonna be honest, people are gonna perceive you how they want to. They're going to, but I think just the fact that you're asking the questions and thinking those thoughts even of like, oh, what if this, what if that? I think that is an indication of like, dare I say, humility and wanting to still respect the other person or other people that you're getting ready to cut ties with or step away from. And I just want to encourage you, like, you're not crazy and it's not in your head, and it's going to be a painful journey for sure, but it's like the most beautiful, freeing thing to be, sometimes dare I even say, like, quite literally hollowed out, because when you're hollow, there's space and there's room for better things to come and fill those parts of your life that are hollow and that hurt. And I just know that's kind of where I'm at personally, where just these past 2 years, it feels like it's just been like re-breaking bones, like when a doctor re-breaks bones. But I feel like, it's unto correction. It's so that it'll heal correctly and heal properly. And it's so painful just being vulnerable. It's the most annoying thing sometimes, where I wake up at 2 a.m. alone in my apartment in LA and I just start crying, and like, not even crying, but like weeping out of nowhere. But I know that that's me healing, because this time last year I would just keep it all in, or I would just
not let it out.
I wouldn't call a friend. I wouldn't text my family saying, hey, I ended a friendship. Hey, I'm hurting. Hey, I'm still thinking about this thing. I want to validate your experience. I know that's another thing our generation really says, like, your experience is valid, but it's true. Like, if it hurts, it hurts. And
it is,
even if you never hear it, I just want to personally say that I'm sorry that happened, because I think that was another thing too that was hard, of like having to come to terms with the fact that I may never hear I'm sorry from those people, and I may never get an apology. So I personally just want to come on here and say I'm sorry that happened to you, and you deserve great things and you're worthy of good things. And I hope that God blesses you with a safe and secure space and just surrounds you with people who will validate that experience and come around you and help you feel like life is worth continuing, and that you can overcome those really strong emotions that are really scary and weird to process sometimes. So
that's good. Mourn it for a certain time period, and then like you have to get up. And that's my advice. Like, at the end of this, definitely feel it. I'm a filler. I'm a 4 on the Enneagram. I'm like a wallower. I will be like crying with the Hallmark movie because it brings up trauma.
6-wing 7, adventurous overthinker.
Yeah, that's real. Okay. I'm a filler, man. Hello. And also a thinker. But I will say, I think you have to mourn it. But at the same time, you can't mourn it for 5 years. You have to, and this is hard, and some of you are gonna hate me for this, but if you want a healthy life, which I think most of us do, like, you want love, you want healthy love, you want healthy relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, you're gonna have to do the work. It's like someone who, God forbid, gets in a car crash, they break their leg, they're hurt, and there's a time when they just have to sit down and let that bone heal after they go through their surgery. But then it's time for that like recovery workout, those workouts that they have to do. What is it called? Like
it's like physical therapy.
Physical therapy. Yeah, you go through physical therapy, and I think you have to go through quite literally emotional therapy. Like, if you do need a counselor, I recommend therapy. I go therapy and Jesus. You should definitely be praying through these situations, letting the Holy Spirit guide you, and even more like putting yourself out there again. And that's really hard for us. I think we get stuck because we're scared, and I understand fear is real, but God is checking me with my own fears in life. It's one thing to be fearful and do it. It's another thing to let fear paralyze you. And I think the fearful and do it part is like, God is all about that. Let him work out your fear as you just take one step at a time, and God will do the rest. Like, you don't have to do it all on your own. So yeah, I think that's great. What else do you have to say? Anything else?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not sponsored. Hopefully one day we'll get sponsored by them, but there's this phenomenal resource called BetterHelp. I am getting ready to start doing therapy through BetterHelp, and basically it's an online therapy site where you can fill out a questionnaire based on what you're looking for, where you're at currently in your life. And after you fill out that questionnaire, I think it takes like 5-10 minutes, you get matched with a therapist or just a catalog of therapists who can basically come alongside you and counsel you and give you proper guidance and instruction on where to proceed next. And it's pretty cool because they also too, they have just different budgets for depending on like your income situation, like your annual income. It's not insured, I don't think, but insured approved for your insurance. Great sentence. But again, like very cost friendly, and I know all over YouTube there are just different content creators and influencers who do actually have sponsorship deals with BetterHelp where you can find a discount code and get another extra percentage off on top of the rate that they give you based on your annual household income per year. And you for sure get at least 4 sessions per month, which is crazy.
That's a lot, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot. And the price that they quoted me was actually cheaper than with insurance, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then you also get access as well to group sessions if that's something that you're comfortable doing or something that you're interested in doing. That, and just give yourself a ton of grace, give yourself a ton of patience. Because I think that's another thing too. We were talking last night about something that was really bothering me and really hurting me. And I think the biggest thing for me was just understanding that it's not guaranteed that we're gonna leave this earth unscathed. Like, we're all gonna get hurt, unfortunately. And I wish it wasn't like that, but we do live in a broken, fallen world. Give yourself time, give yourself a ton of grace, a ton of patience.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go off of anyone's timeline or agenda for it. Because I think that was another thing too. I had a bunch of people that are no longer in my life who were trying to rush me through the healing process, which made it worse too. And so if you are someone who doesn't struggle with this, but you do know someone who is, I just want to encourage you to just kind of like maybe loosen
back off a little bit
expectations, because
just back up.
It's one thing to go through it, and it's another thing to be like in this instance where you're just watching someone go through it. So yeah, I think maybe like just back off a little to get perspective, and then come back and see how you can advocate and help out, because we'll definitely need people too who are healthy and have a good understanding and capability of like working through this, to come alongside people who are, I don't mean this offensively, but who are vulnerable and don't really have guidance or counsel to work through it.
Yeah, and I mean, encourage, if you have a friend that's really going through something and you're tired of listening to them and you're like, let's just get over it, encourage that friend to go to therapy or counsel with a pastor, or like get professional help, because if you are tired, you're not going to be the right person. And I get it, like that's why I go to counseling personally, because I don't want to burden my people, my inner circle, with the same things that I'm not over, you know, because it takes time. So yeah, I think really being supportive is sometimes taking yourself out of that position of like the main supporter and saying, hey, I'm not good at this, but I love you. I feel like this is the route for you. I mean, my fiance was like, Martay, I think maybe you should try counseling. Not like, I hate you and I don't like you, I don't like to hear you. He's like, but like, you are not over this thing, and I think someone with better like wisdom and who is really good at this can help you get through it way more than I could. And I'm like, well, like that's humility as a friend, to not be like, no, I got it, I'm so good at being a friend, I got you.
Yeah.
But do you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think being honest too. Well, you guys, love you so much. If you've made it this far, make sure you subscribe, because clearly we're meant to be friends. And yeah, I'm so excited for what God is doing this new season. I feel like this single is bringing a lot of illumination, as well as just so fun. Go stream it everywhere, purchase it, download it, whatever. All of the sites. There's a link in the the description of this video, and you can go check it out right now. So I'll see you guys later. Peace, love you guys. Bye.
Bye.